Oh, good morning, everybody. It's a real honour to be here and amongst so many passionate people. I was half expecting, it's very presidential, this would be exchanging insults with somebody on the other podium, but I think hopefully it's not the person I'm thinking of. But anyway, it's been a long 3-4 years at the IMI, developing a lot of really good things for our industry. And I've seen some people I know here today. It's very comforting to know they're in the crowd with some mouldy fruit ready to throw. The good thing about today is that we're sharing a passion for what we do, for behaving ethically, for working within guidelines, and for doing what's right for the consumer. And I think this is just an emphasis, seeing so many people here today, that this evening will be given accolades and praise and really actually feel what they've achieved, actually physically materializing, because very often we do an awful lot of hard work and some of it is recognized, but perhaps not as much as we'd like. But this evening is one of those events that really gives you that opportunity to feel that you've achieved and done exceptionally well. The IMI is about achievement. It's about the individual. We deal with all manner of things, anything from membership to, as Martin said rightly, qualifications. I'll talk to you a little bit about an accreditation product that we've developed for your sector. But we do an awful lot more. Ours is all about ensuring that our industry is always improving, always looking to improve, never resting on its laurels. And it's, as I said, all about the individual. So I'll go through a little bit about what we do, where we've come from, really. Wow, first slide works, beautiful. So that's in very graphic technicolor are the key facets of what the IMI is about. And just for those of you who don't know us, Institute of the Motor Industry has been around since 1920. Actually started out as a membership organisation. Some people called it an ivory tower, old man's club, talking shop, all that kind of thing. But really, it was a non-belligerence place where people could actually sit and talk and discuss like-minded things. And that's developed. So 1920 is a long time ago. And if you think what's happened since then, we've come a long way. But we're all about raising standards. Yes, we'd like to build careers, but that's all about a two-sided thing here. We're here to help. The individual has to show their passion, has to be willing to be tested, has to want to engage with learning and assessment. And very often, in our industry, unfortunately, that's all too often not the case. And I had an individual approach me during a session at a vehicle manufacturer. It was a really big day, and there was sales and customer service people being assessed. And I won't repeat the language because it's not for this room, but he approached me during one of the breaks and said, "You're from the IMI, aren't you?" And I said, Yeah. What's your query? And he said, "Well, if I'd have wanted to be tested, I'd have become a surgeon." So he wasn't very passionate about what he was doing. And unfortunately, that can be all too common in the ranks of the motor industry. And that then reflects when we're dealing with the consumer, because many people will say there are a couple of different job roles that we really don't like. You've heard the double glazing salespeople. You've heard motor industry, I'm sure. Have you heard finance? Maybe. What we'd like to do is improve on that, and we're going to great lengths to help you to improve on that. And I'll show you what we've done shortly. But make no mistake, all of these that you're seeing now, all these coloured squares, contain within them an enormous amount of passion, hard work, and devotion to what we do. So we're not just in it to earn money. In fact, the IMI is a not-for-profit organisation. The industry, I know, has a lot of good players, a lot of people that know exactly what they want to achieve. And here's a little bit more about what we do. So we have 600 centres at the moment, and that's not just UK, predominantly UK, but it's increasingly global. We've got a big presence in the Middle East, in Malaysia, China, North America, and the list goes on. And countries that are valuing UK qualifications, valuing UK standards, looking up to us and wanting to take a piece of what happens here in the UK. So their impression of the UK is that we're doing it right. And we're working to help them to achieve that. So 600 centres delivering our products around the world. We are by far and away the number one, the premier, in numbers in fact, awarding organisation for the automotive sector. We only deal with automotive. We specialise and that's it. We're something in excess of 85% of that market. So, what do we do in more listed format? Well, industry standards and quality assurance. Well, industry standards we've spoken about. I would have thought many, many a time in our workplace, what are we trying to achieve? What we do is work with industry for industry. So we're not about inventing stuff. We don't go and just off the back of a whim and a prayer invent something that would work, possibly. What we do is we work with industry, we find out what it is that they really need, where the gaps are, what would happen if the gaps are closed, how we close gaps when we test people. We look at that too, because it's a loaded gun. If you test somebody, they don't pass, and you just leave them to drift. So the learning piece is very important for us. But what we do is we work with industry to standards. Predominantly, our qualifications and the accreditation product that I'll talk to you about in a moment is derived from national occupational standards. So again, it's to a specific formula, but then we take the expertise and we develop bespoke solutions. And that's been taken actually a stage further, as I'll tell you shortly, by vehicle manufacturers in particular, who want to engage with what we offer, but they want to engage in a certain way, add things on, and elaborate. Independent quality assurance is of immense importance because there's no point in looking at standards and then not implementing them correctly. So we have a quality assurance team who dedicate themselves to the 650 centres. I don't quite know how they manage it because there's a few of them, but 650 is a lot. And they go and visit these centres, some of them biannually, to ensure that they're marking properly, that the paperwork is, the internal verification process is in the right place, and above all else, that their consumer, so the learner, the candidate, is given every opportunity to excel and is given every helping hand. We are the Sector Skills Council also for the retail motor industry. There are, I'm told, about 15 of these left, not for the motor industry, but 15 Sector Skills Council, SSCs, 5 very active ones, and we are one of those. In fact, we were so active that at the last government funding project, we kept getting extra things thrown at us at no extra cost, which was a bit tricky, but the government kept saying, that's great, carry on doing what you're doing, and by the way, could you add this on as well? So we've been doing that, we're still doing that, we're effectively the conduit. We walk very often down the corridors in Westminster and ask very difficult questions and get some quite interesting answers. But we work very closely between our industry and government. Accreditation. I'll come to that in a moment. I keep threatening to, and I promise you I will. It has its own place in this today. It's a very special place because, as I began by saying, this is a room of very passionate, competent people. It's the cream in here today. And I'm sure you will all understand what I mean when I say that we need to maintain our standards. It's all very well getting the laurel, but we need to keep on proving that we are the best and that we're willing to learn. I should give you a stat actually here. Our industry, going back to that gentleman that approached me at the accreditation day, our industry has something in the region of 18% only of its managers with a relevant qualification, just 18%. The average across industry, I'm reliably told by my researchers, is about 48. So we need to work very, very hard on that. And the competence piece is something that will draw people much closer to learning and development. We have a unique professional register. And the professional register is a place where all the people that want to be seen as doing the right thing in the industry and engaged with learning and the IMI are listed. At the moment, it's all people that have one of our accreditations to their name. They are 3-year rolling accreditation, so you have to retake it. They're all our members are on there, and very soon we will add everybody who has one of our qualifications as well. So we're going all the way back to people in FE colleges, 16 to 19-year-olds, and all of our professionals in the adult community. And we also do measuring. Back in 2010, I went to the University of Leicester and spoke to a gentleman called Dr. Paul Spear, who was so excited he bought the company. Now, he came actually to work for us. We now have an ROI department, and return on investment is a big piece of work for us. We now actually offer that as a service. So it's not just about saying you do, but it's about doing it and actually then measuring and showing the outcome. The initial return on investment study was across 4 different IMI accreditations and 4 totally different organisations, parts factor, vehicle manufacturer, and they're all engaging in these different accreditations for different reasons. It's quite worrying, actually, because what we could have done is ended up with egg on our face, because we just said, look, we'll go in and crunch the numbers, and Paul, bless his heart, really doesn't know the front of a car from the back of one. He's a diamond physicist by trade, but he promised me he was going to do the numbers, and so he did. Number crunched, and what we came out with was the people in comparison who were accredited versus either the same person pre-accreditation or somebody at the same time who wasn't accredited. We found that there was a clear difference in performance. They were 6 times more likely at the time to stay on at their organisation, 6 times more likely. We also found that the return on investment figure, because there is a figure at the end of it if you want to dig for it, was 137%. I'm sure I don't have to explain to the guys and ladies in this room, F&I, you all know it. £1 in, £2.37 back. That was real. And of course, let's not denigrate this part, IMI membership, that's the origins. It's a membership organisation dating back to 1920, and still is. People still covet the post-nominals. Actually, it's the most visual thing that we give, really. We're always looking for models that will perhaps bring the two things together, but we've got to take that one step at a time. But membership is still coveted, from fellow down to affiliate. It's still coveted, and we will be launching officially very shortly the student member. And these young people will at last, and I say that, at last, be recognised for being at the beginnings of engaging with a very, very important industry. And that's something that we're very, very passionate about. So, glorious Technicolor again. This is effectively what we do. And it is colour-coded because we're supposed to do all the slides in the right colours, otherwise our comms team will beat me up and drag me out of the room. But I think I've got the colours right. Professional register will be in turquoise in a minute. If it's not, I'm running out of here because they're all on camera. But this is essentially the lineup. And in there you'll see, under Learning and Development, IMI qualifications, IMI accreditation, quality assured programs. These are the 3, what I lovingly, wrongly or rightly call our 3 learning products. Qualifications don't need any introduction. Qualifications are something that our competitors, I call them that very loosely, but City and Guilds and ABC at Excel, very well known, and we all do the qualifications and we stick to what we're told to do. They're in frameworks. There's very little we can do about that, but we provide a fantastic backup to our industry for those. And as I say, we only deal with vehicle, retail motor industry. But the qualifications, are just one part of it. There are 192 of those at last count. 192 between VRQs, VCQs, entry levels, right up to level 4. So pre-higher education is what we deal with. The other two products are interesting because they are very, very bespoke to our industry, and they've been developed in conjunction with industry. We listened to what industry needed and why they weren't engaging with the learning. Now, we know that we employ a lot of people in certain roles. I'm not saying in here, but we do employ a lot of people who really, really didn't want to be engaged with much CPD and learning. But apart that for now, what we did is we said, okay, let's work with what we have. And the two products are essentially, accreditation is testing your current competence, giving you the opportunity to prove that you know how to do the job that you're doing. So when they say, what do I bring with me? I say, well, you can bring a pencil if you like, and bring your mobile and switch it off. Because what we're going to be doing on that day is testing you at your role. And I'm talking all the way from welding to customer service, sales, and in a minute, I'm going to talk about F&I as well. It's on a 3-year basis, so you have to reaccredit. You can't just take your ticket and run. Qualifications, we all know you do pretty much once, and at the time they are a demonstration of your ability to learn, research, be tested, and pass. So you do that. But the accreditation keeps on asking you to show that. And I think if I go back to who's in the room today, F&I is one of those topics that, particularly now with these guys called the FCA walking about and checking things, we need to know that we're operating legally, compliant, treating customers fairly. The list goes on, loads and lots of acronyms, TCF and all sorts of things. But actually we need to make sure that we are. We know we do a good job, right? We absolutely know that. But we need to show that we're prepared to be tested. It's all about the consumer. They'll tell you, oh, I'm really interested, I'm interested in the price. But they are interested in who they're dealing with, because if things go wrong, it then goes down to other things. It goes down to what was done, what was said, what wasn't said. And this is where we need to be ever so careful, and more than ever now. So accreditation offers that opportunity to over and over again be tested, and it's good for you too, yeah? Keeping up to date, keeping your learning going. Third product, briefly, Quality Assured Program. That is about organisations that can't engage with our accreditation or qualifications, can't or won't, but some of them would still like to have some form of independent, quality-assured, industry-specific accolade, and that is QAP. What we do is we'll check organisations' programs, and it's the only one actually where we go through their training as well, because our accreditation is just a test, so you need to train towards that or work towards it. QAP will go and look at your program. It has to have robust assessment included in it. And if our quality assurer is content, either through you if you become a centre of the IMI or through an existing IMI centre, we will approve that program. It has your title on it and it's on an IMI certificate. So there's 3 really easy ways to engage. And that's why now it's much harder for people in the industry to say, I don't think we can. So that's the learning products. Accreditation. This is the one I keep threatening to talk about. I'll talk about it now. Honest, promise. Accreditation, and it's in the right corporate colour, by the way. So, derived from NOS, another acronym, National Occupational Standards, just like our qualifications. So it's not a whim. It's not someone just thinking, I'll tell you what, let's just get some people together and make something up. We do actually get people together, and they do make things up, but they make them up on the basis of national occupational standards. They do exist. Please look them up. It's great fun. We'll fall asleep, but it's good. Big lists of NOS. What they do is they set out a set of standards that are benchmarks, so not minimum, but benchmark standards. And we work with those at high level to then develop competencies for each job role. And we'll test those in the accreditation pool with 2 key methodologies: knowledge and competence. And that will become very, very significant in a moment for the F&I piece. Over 20 disciplines. That's something we've developed over the years. I was involved with the soft skills piece, with sales, customer service. Actually, parts is involved in that as well. There's a lot of customer interaction with parts. And more recently, with the F&I accreditation. Design with industry expertise. As I said, we do gather expert working groups, EWGs we call them lovingly, to ensure that we're getting a mix, a representation from industry of what's actually needed. It is industry-wide, so they can't say, well, who made this one up? The answer is you. Yeah, we've given you the guidelines, we've got you around the table, and it doesn't happen in 5 minutes, by the way. We have quite a few EWGs before we get something to market. We pilot it, so we go through the quality assurance stage, we make changes, we have feedback, criticism, and we test it. We test it with volunteers, the guinea pig organisations, as we have on the piece that is very, very relevant for you. It's IMI certified, of course, and very, very importantly, alongside membership, the people who pass the accreditation, and this is about the people. Remember, this is not a good garage scheme. It's not a company thing. This is about individuals who will carry that with them. If you're accredited, you go straight onto the professional register. It's public facing, no login. Anybody can look. It zeroes it down to a map. You can see exactly where that individual is. You can see what they do, what they're qualified in, if they're a member. You can check these people out. And of course, we provide, and a couple of our ladies are here today, in fact, provide advice to our industry professionals who very often, see people in the street, what is this IMI thing? I've just been noticing it, and they don't know exactly what we do. It's very, very industry focused up until now, but now very, very consumer focused. And of course, opportunity for career progression. It's very interesting, actually, how powerful an accreditation is when you go to look for employment. Right, F&I. Where do I begin with this? Well, we were developing sales accreditation, and it became very obvious way before that F&I had its own legs. Inextricably linked, and there are some competencies within our sales role. They're actually optional ones because not everybody does this piece, and it's unfair to exclude them. But what we decided to do, after much deliberation and pushing on my part and a few people's parts actually, we got together with some industry expertise, had some preliminary sessions, and came together with some ideas. This is a very, very interesting statement. This answers, for me, the why. We could look at this all day long and people could say, well, actually, yeah, did he mean it like, well, no, look, I've read other ones. There's a whole list. We don't have 100 slides and I don't have loads of minutes left. But the reality is, this explains it. We know that now we're under scrutiny. There's no question about that at all. And I say that, the royal we, I mean, I've been in the industry about 25 years, and this sector is very, very important to me, and I'm passionate about seeing it succeed. And I'm just happy that, as I said at the beginning, that we've got the accolades that are going to be given tonight, because it just shows that we do it properly. But there is always the opportunity for a gap. There is always a chance that we could be taken to task. We need to make sure that we've shown that we're willing to engage with something that shows that we are doing the right thing. We're putting ourselves up for test, for criticism. So the accreditation structure then, this is the accreditation that we've developed for initially, well, we've had it tested by a vehicle manufacturer already, but this is for the whole industry. It's not specifically F&I managers, business managers. To me, it's anybody who is purveying F and or I products, particularly to the consumer. We need people to engage with this. It's me just get these 4 up, thank you. I got stuck there with my button. These are the 4 modules of our accreditation, the last one of which I'm sure I don't have to explain. They're module titles, and within those modules are critical competencies that have to be hit. So during the testing, the candidate has to demonstrate competence in all of the areas that are within these title headings. And there is also then a knowledge test. I have to thank at this point the FLA, Finance and Leasing Association. I've seen a gentleman here today, Paul Harrison, who I thank personally for his help and the early stages of this, and his successor, Adrian Daly, who has been incredibly supportive. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so the knowledge part, we took the SAF test. Specialist Automotive Finance. I'm sure most, if not all of you here will be familiar with it. It's engaged with by an awful lot of people. I think the number was, that walk around with a certificate is something like 25 to 30,000, if I'm not mistaken. We've taken that as the knowledge element of our accreditation without reinventing the wheel. And then there's a practical session, it's a mixture of role play, but predominantly professional discussion with an accredited assessor, accredited by the IMI. And plus, second part, so the SAF test, as I mentioned, an IMI underpinning knowledge test, UPK test, that is the insurance half, because there wasn't one out there, believe it or not, an insurance equivalent of the SAF, written by the people who wrote the SAF. That's quite good. And inside that are some bits that aren't in the SAF that are about finance. So, confuse you, but we've belt and braces here. We've really gone deep into what you need to be tested on. And the end result is you'll be tested across the board for F&I. You have to have a valid SAF to enter, and you must maintain that SAF throughout the 3 years of the IMI accreditation. SAF is annual, as I'm sure you know. So accreditation features, as I said, 3 years validity, requires maintenance of the SAF. And of course, it is impartial, and we like to think it's user-friendly. I'm sure people will tell you it is a bit scary, though, user-friendly, but, you know, my God, I'm being tested. Very often, with the technical routes, we get people coming in thinking it's a training day. Worrying that when the turn over your papers happens. Correct corporate colour, please take note of that. This is the professional register, a little bit about that, open to the public, so we're not hiding it, we're making it very, very public. And the register contains, as I said, members, currently members and accredited people, but it will also contain all of our qualified professionals soon. And they're the entry points. If you are just a member, say just a member, if you don't have any accreditation, we require that you do continual professional development. So 90 credits of that you log with us, so we measure the value of over the 3-year period to stay on the register. You can still be a member and not be on the register. Most people would like to be on there with their post-nominals. If you are accredited, the CPD's done. And that, I believe, bang on time.